Hey, kids. You're listening to the internet's wettest podcast about video games, consoles, and pancakes. The SML Podcast.
Prepare for the SML Podcast.
What's up, everybody? This is the SML Podcast. I am your host, Joe. Party cast lineup. We've got Pernell and Chris here. How are you two doing?
Party wobbles.
Collywobbles indeed.
Collywobbles indeed. The wrestling reference is being dropped because Big Adam is here this week as well. Big Adam, how are you doing?
Hello. I'm tired.
Man, aren't we all? Like this summer has just been exhausting.
Yes, it has. Yes, it has.
It's been hot again. Like, come on, it's September.
Yeah, but you know what? I think the weather break finally happened. So
it happened down in Texas, and we're very happy about it.
No longer 140 down there.
Yeah, it was. I don't even think it broke 100 today.
Oh,
yeah, it's supposed to be
around
pretty
here
nice
it was
this week.
in the high
comparatively.
70s today.
Things are looking up. You're not melting.
yeah,
I've heard some horrible
had
stories about the weather
90s
being
here in the
wet.
past week, and it is the worst part is it's not just hot; it's been muggy.
Yeah,
Just
the last week in
humidity.
PA has sucked.
It is very muggy. You go outside, and next thing you know, boom, take your money from you. Broke.
Close.
It's so hot outside.
Yeah.
If you walk out your front door, 5 minutes later, people think you're a professional wrestler
Just dripping sweat.
because it's the wettest of sports.
Just knowing that you have to take like that extra little bit of time going to work because it's going to take a few minutes before you can touch the steering wheel.
Oh yeah.
That's
Well,
You tried to
I'm
hold big
spoiled in that
cookies in the car a
regard.
bit.
We have remote start, so we can get the air cranking from the house.
nice.
Oh, lucky you.
Yeah, it's very, very nice.
Have you tried to hold baking cookies in your car a bit yet?
No.
No, I'm talking about the Chris.
Oh no! No, I don't cook with cars.
You're so efficient.
This week on Cooking with Cars, on the SML Podcast,
Yeah.
Chris is going to
Some
make
Betty Crocker.
omelet on the hood of a car.
And destroy the paint job.
A slow rise souffle in the engine bay.
For what a slow rise in the engine bay. Grrr.
Pull over! The souffle needs to come out now.
Yeah,
Turn it. We're on the
Don't rev
interstate.
too high, the souffle will deflate.
We're on the interstate. You think I give a shit? The souffle, baby. Gotta take care of that product. But actually, now that you mentioned now, I want to see someone do it in that manner. I'm thinking like the usual dashboard cooking, like while you're inside and letting the car get hot. But engine over easy eggs, like in The Simpsons. Now we're talking. Make it happen, Chris. I believe in you.
So aside
Thank you
from the
for
weather,
believing
how's
in me.
everyone's week been? Has anyone done anything cool in the past week? Or Adam, anything new in your neck of the woods?
Yes. But I'll save that for the end of my review.
Ooh.
Interesting.
No,
I,
I'm not going to do that. There's no reason to do that at all. I don't know why I was even going for drama. It's like so nonsensical. It's ridiculous, actually.
Wait till we get to find out for sure.
No, I got a new job, and I started my job last Tuesday.
Nice.
And so far, it has been awesome. And my team rules, and I'm real hype to not only have employment once again, but to be working with a really cool group of nerds that are very like-minded. So,
That's
Congratulations.
good.
thank you. It's been very cool.
What I like most about doing this show is I'm just working with like-minded nerds.
Yeah. That's why I created that.
I disagree.
We're all just
No.
on the same wavelength of just enjoying games and chatting and just relaxing. And that's, I find solace in doing this show every week. Organizing it and getting it posted and everything is a pain in the ass, but actually being here and doing it, it's such a good, it's a release. It keeps me sane. You guys keep me sane.
Yeah, you
That's
don't
how I feel
necessarily
about
have to do that second part.
That's true.
You could just record the show. It could just sit on a hard drive.
Yeah. I don't think it would change our numbers if I didn't upload it.
Ooh.
Impossible.
Now.
Oh,
Yeah, but
we
it's-
don't have listeners. Womp womp.
Sure we do.
Someone
Billions.
might be listening right now.
Billions.
Billions!
I disagree with you, Big Adam.
No, well,
Billions.
that's because you're not an optimist like I am.
So how about you, Chris? You got some good news as well, right?
Do I have good news? I don't think so. I've just been,
happened.
huh?
Yeah, I think something happened.
Something happened? No, I don't know. What's my good news, Pernell? Please tell me. I would like to know.
You remained awesome, and you've survived the heat wave of Austin or Texas, whatever's going on in Texas. That madness.
True,
you're still
continued
here.
Survival is definitely good.
There you go.
Yeah, I've been real hooked on a game all week, and that actually has to do with my first review. But yeah, I finally got really into Vampire Survivors, which is
that
a
game's
couple months
dope.
late.
That's a
Yeah,
good
it was
one.
really good.
That game's dope.
It's really, really good.
It's funny to see all the survivor likes coming out now that are just vampire survivors with their own unique twist on the genre.
Unique.
Yeah,
We'll be
there are a couple
talking about
really
that
decent ones.
when I go to review a game.
Ooh.
Apart from that, I finally completed my Godzilla film collection on Blu-ray. I have every Godzilla film that has ever been on that format, and I've now watched all but one of them.
Which
I
one
was
haven't
right.
you watched?
Final Wars.
Why are you waiting on that?
What is
It's
it?
just
Truly final.
Literally, I watched one today over lunch break and the rest of work. So
Oh,
it's
you just didn't get to it yet. Okay, I thought
I just haven't got to it yet. I'll watch it like by the end of tonight or tomorrow.
You'll be watching
Yeah.
it during the show.
I suppose I could.
I wish I had that kind of freaking.
Chris, tell us about
news.
Catlord. Chris.
In my case, let me think. I had something today come up. It ain't a big deal, but I want to feel like I contributed to the anybody have anything good happen this week. Actually, no, I do have two good things that happened this week. Surprise, surprise.
Tell us.
So the first thing was I learned that I had a checkup on my mom's medical situation, and the news came back pretty positive there, in that she is in the process. She's not in full remission or nothing, but her cancer has shrunk since her last check-in, which is good.
Good.
So we are hopefully continuing that trend after her next set of appointments. We'll see if that continues. I mean, our medical system's still bullshit because the bills keep on showing up, but they can take $2 a month and kiss my ass. So there's that. And then the other thing is that apparently I reached 700 workouts today. So it is definitely the most consistent I've ever been with anything in my life. Now if I could just be less fat at the same time, though I'm working on that with an idea I've had recently. We'll see how it plays out, where I'm going to switch towards only eating when I'm hungry. Like, actually only when I'm hungry. I don't know what that means yet. I guess when your stomach starts to grumble, which I don't recall happening in a long time for me, but if you're forcing it to happen, it should be interesting to check out. So we'll see. But
that's kind of the way I've always lived, to be fair.
I tried to be that way for a while, but then in recent years, I tried to pull the whole, eat here, then eat here, then eat here, and just go with that, or an occasional snack as well. But I never
You wanna know
outright just
what?
simply let myself go. Your stomach
My
is like,
entire nutrition plan is based on ease. So like
the gay?
it's just whatever is easy.
Oh, ease, the literal word ease, not the game ease. I was like, wait a minute.
No, not the game ease.
You see, 88 caps at level 16, just like my appetite does.
Oh, gee.
No.
They make recipes that I find in the game.
I feel like ease is kind of how I work too, not the game. But it's just one of those cases where it's like, when you're stressed out or you have like whatnot, I think I'm one of those types where I can't eat when I'm stressed out too. Like, oh, I'll eat a snack just to kind of cool down and relax, as opposed to being like, I'm not hungry. Why the hell am I eating these Cheez-Its? So
I ate
that, I
Cheez-Its just now.
Well, they're fucking delicious. Of course, you should be eating Cheez-Its.
Yeah.
But it's a road to climb for sure. And I'm hoping it yields results. We will see.
Oh,
And that's the last thing I got going on.
Nothing really going on in my neck of the woods. Just I don't know. I got a new subscription to Fight TV so I could watch more wrestling with friends.
You got new RAM.
Yeah, I did get new. I talked about that, like, what was it, last week or the other week?
It had to have been last week because that's when we did it.
Then, yeah, last week.
I bricked your
I can't
computer
remember
entirely.
last week.
Did you tell them how I bricked your computer?
Yes.
Nice.
Want to tell your side of the story?
Oh, yeah. So,
computers.
yeah, so the computer that, he bought as a unit, which is fine. I have nothing against pre-built computers. I think they're totally serviceable. Absolutely. But he wanted to upgrade the RAM in the machine. So he asked me for my opinion. I happen to know the processor that he has very well. So I was like, buy this RAM specifically. Why? Because I have basically the same processor. It's not exactly the same, but it's basically the same thing. I know all the specs of that device, and you want RAM that lives at 3200 megahertz. So buy this. And he was like, okay. So he bought it, and he put it in, and he sent me a screenshot, and my brain didn't work right. And I was getting frequency and speed mixed up, and I tried to get his RAM to run closer to 6400 megahertz, which is not a thing, via UEFI settings, and essentially bricked his machine. Like, it wouldn't even post.
Yeah.
And then I had him try something that I've never even done on my own machine before, but I've read about it a lot.
Anything, bro.
And I've seen things, and I was like, you know what? This is totally serviceable. This is a very regular thing that people do. So I had him actually reach into his. Well, we unplugged the machine and powered off the power supply. Let's get that point out into the open first. So the machine is
didn't.
It does matter if you didn't.
I said it'd be hilarious if I didn't reach in there while it's powered on.
And then I had him take a screwdriver into his case and basically short circuit two jumpers on purpose to clear the UEFI cache. And then we, held that. It's basically like putting a jumper pin on, but we didn't have a jumper pin handy. So you just got to make the electricity go from one doodle to the other doodle. So that's what we did. We made the doodles touch. When the doodles touch, it clears the RAM. If you hold it there for like 10 or 15 seconds, and then you wait another 30 seconds, and then you plug the machine back in, and then the doodles aren't touching when you plug the machine back in, so the machine's like, oh, I got you, fam. I'm going to boot up in the default programmed stock rendition of your computer's UEFI settings. And I then promptly realized my error and had him set the correct the correct frequency, which then operates at the correct speed when you're looking at the right thing, and his computer was then repaired. But yeah, for a while there, without doing some real janky stuff with the screwdriver and touching things that are electric together on purpose, his computer was essentially a brick, and it was my fault.
Yay!
But we fixed it over a video Discord call, which is always fun to do hardware testing on.
Yeah.
Was there an Adam guarantee where you're like, you know what? I got a computer for you, bro. I'll take care of it.
No, not even a little bit.
Trust in my ass.
Not even a little bit. But I trust in my ability to research troubleshooting techniques.
I hear that.
So
you have enough faith in your skill to say, you know what?
I do. And once you learn, like,
it out with you.
Literally, the instructions that come with the motherboard are like, hey, put a pin jumper here to short circuit these two to clear the cache. And it's like, okay, that's the instruction. Well, what does that jumper do if you don't have a jumper handy? Well, it's literally just a piece of metal that touches these two pins together. Well, a flathead screwdriver can do that if aimed carefully. Joe, can you aim a screwdriver carefully? And he was like, I mean, I think so. And I was like, right on, let's short these bastards out. Let's get her done.
Party
It
time.
somehow worked. I somehow didn't set it on fire.
You not only didn't set it on fire, but your computer should now be functioning while under load infinitely better than it was.
Yeah.
So,
Hooray!
Yay, computers.
What the computers do.
I like fixing computers. It's so good. It's so rewarding.
Man, speaking of performing under duress, should we get to the reviews?
Yes.
The first one has led to some headaches.
You know what they say, duress to impress.
Yeah.
You ready to dive into these?
Sure.
Deedly doodly.
Okay, first game to talk about tonight is WrestleQuest, developed by Megacat Studios, published by Skybound Games, released August 22nd on Xbox One, Series X and S, Switch, PS4, PS5, and PC for $29.99. Tag team with Destiny, pro wrestling and RPG fantasy collide in the ultimate pixel-powered adventure. Macho Man Randy Savage and tons of other icons offer guidance as you powerbomb your way to glory beyond the ring. This hero's journey ain't just an epic quest, it's a WrestleQuest. Adam, tell us about your time and struggles with WrestleQuest.
Well, WrestleQuest is actually a game that I've been looking forward to for a long time. Our friend Matt has been really looking forward to this game to the point where I believe he helped kickstart it or did whatever kind of funding thing and already has like got a pre-order pin for his vest and all that. But
Nice.
Anyway, I got the game code from young Mr. Joseph. I put it into my Steam. I downloaded the files. I clicked play. And I was met with an error. And the amount of bum out that ensued was palpable. Apparently, there is a glitch in the software that another person that we know that has this game has also experienced. It's not super common. It seems to be very random.
As is the case with computer issues. Seems to magical circumstances.
Neither one of my Xbox controllers were able to be recognized by the game, and the game has a pre-start screen check to make sure that a real good actual controller is plugged in so you can play the game. So I hit like an impassable brick wall.
Yeah.
But what I did is I do know other people that have played the game. And I do know a lot about the game itself because I have been following its development and stuff like that. And I have seen a ton of content on this. And you know what? I feel like I can still give my opinion on things that I've seen. And
I can back it up because I put a few hours into the game myself.
That's true.
So win-win all around. We'll make this baby happen.
Absolutely. I want to get it done because this game actually does rule. Like, it's cool as hell. It takes the concept of the old school 16-bit, so SNES, Genesis era, RPG, but it puts a lot of quality of life improvements on things, and it kind of mix matches what RPG games it kind of takes from in certain scenarios that make a little bit more sense. But it's all based on pro wrestling. In the 90s, this game was a fever dream. Like, I would have sold my brother, my older 7-year older brother. I would have figured out a way to sell him at 9 years old to play this game. Basically, the entire game, the premise of the game is it's everybody and all of the characters and everything is all toys. It's all wrestling toys. And there are, much like an old school RPG, there are different zones that you can walk to. And it's cool because there's like an expanded overworld map that has like the old school Final Fantasy style, like overworld map treading to different townships. And then when you get to the different areas, they're all themed out and they're all kind of like their own wrestling federations with their own sets of lore and their own champion. And they're usually headed up by some kind of very famous wrestler of historical past. The ones that I know that are featured, and Joe, you can let me know if I'm missing any here. I know Macho Man Randy Savage is essentially one of the main themes, and I'll go over that in a bit.
God of the game. They worship him.
Absolutely. The cream of the crop always rises to the top, brother. Andre the Giant, Jeff Jarrett, DDP, who else did I see? Sergeant Slaughter, and...
Are they referenced by their actual names, or do they come up with, like, fake names for them?
Oh, no, they're...
For the licensed names, they're licensed.
Oh, cool.
It's actually Jeff Jarrett in there, and I can say
it's
without a shadow of a doubt...
I hate Jeff Jarrett.
Yeah. It's like it's a 16-bit toy render, very cartoony toy render of Jeff Jarrett by name. Of
and Macho Man and Andre the Giant.
Yep.
Andre the Giant, Jeff Jarrett, Diamond Dallas Page from
Nasty
WCW
Boys
fame.
are in the game.
The Nasty Boys. Tag team, the Road Warriors.
Oh.
That was my era of wrestling.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It all comes from that. And, like, the wrestlers that aren't licensed, there are a ton more that are referenced in very memey ways. And there are also a ton of pop culture references that makes the game way more fun and approachable, I should say, to a wider audience than just, specifically wrestling fans. The cool thing about the battle system in this game is, one, it ties back to that RPG element I referred to. It treats it like a turn-based combat system, which is really cool. Inside of a wrestling ring, which rules, and you before you get to like the final like end boss or whatever, the final wrestler, the champion of the federation, if you will. You get a chance to, like, cut promos and stuff. And you can get, like, bonuses and stuff from that. You also get bonuses from items that are in the game that, you can use to boost up your character. Although, one thing I will note is I did notice, and I did read a lot, that the items don't do as much, or the items and equipables don't do as much upgrading as they should. They feel like very, very soft upgrades when they're applied, almost making some of them not worth it. So basically, you play as one of the characters, but you're as one of the characters that you can pre-select from. There's also like a create a wrestler function that has some options that you can choose from. But basically, you're playing through, following the story of two main characters. One guy who is entirely obsessed with Macho Man Randy Savage. His name is Muchacho Man, and his goal is to just be that guy. You know what I mean? And he's killing it, and you kind of follow along with his story. The other character is Brink Logan, who is kind of like a scrub in his dad's promotion, but he's really, really trying to make his own name on his own 2 feet, and he like doesn't want to disappoint his family, and he's really trying to push harder to like get his help his family's organization grow and also like become part of the wider audience. It's Bret Hart. It's Bret Hart's life story. Like, it's very easily put together that the other main character is essentially Bret Hart. But the game just follows through, like I said, multiple different federations, and you work your way through the federations, like I said, with the different matches, leading up to the champion. I haven't seen the very end of the game, so I can't really kind of give an opinion or an idea of what the end of the game looks like. But once I get my controller working and I can play this, I will come back and re-review this specifically so I can show or talk about the end of the game.
Yeah, I can comment some of the things that didn't really do it for me in this game. The map in particular, like the mini map, is awful. People are talking about how bad
the mini map is.
The Starfield map is, how it's just like a blank slate with icons. It's the same thing in this. It's just icons. The walking speed is atrocious. You have to hold to run the entire game. Just move at a good pace. I wish the walking speed were faster.
You know what? I noticed that because there's no real reason to walk ever.
Yeah.
So you're just holding an extra button for no reasons.
Give us a toggle like they do in Final Fantasy games where the default is run and you could hold a button to walk.
Yeah, I'm into that, especially when it's the lesser used function. I'm about that.
The upgrades, as you mentioned, they seem very just minimal incrementally. It just minor bumps here and there, and it doesn't really feel like the upgrades do much overall in the game. But if you want to have an easier time with the game, there are some I don't want to call them quality of their assists. It's accessibility. That's the word I'm looking for. I couldn't think. They have some accessibility options in the game that one gives you max damage. So anytime you do an attack, you're doing like 10,000 damage.
Yeah.
You're just fucking everything up in this game.
Just absolutely washing all of the enemies.
They have one that makes you immortal, so you can't lose. Which, you know, the game sometimes has fights that require you to throw the fight. They'll have like scripted losses because it's wrestling. That's what happens in wrestling. But they also have one that makes the pinfalls instantaneous.
Oh, yeah.
I actually, I don't use them. Well, I use the max damage one just because I want to get through the game quick because it's fun. But I feel like taking the timing game away from the pinning makes it too
That's not
easy.
wrestling.
It makes it too easy to screw up when you need to lose a fight.
Yeah. Yep.
Like at least.
So,
go ahead.
The other thing I was going to say is even with scripted losses and stuff like that, because again, wrestles, there's other scenarios where you get to make decisions via dialogue, like, you know, good or bad or whatever. But it doesn't really feel like it changes that much towards the outcome. It feels like it's kind of on rails regardless of the choice made.
Yeah.
Which I found a little bit frustrating. But real quick, before we keep working on the dumps, I'm going to give it a couple thumbs up that I forgot to mention. The customizability, aside from what your like person would look like, you get to also pick the theme music, how they walk in, so like their like dance or their pose or whatnot, their pyrotechnics and any kind of effects that go with that. You also get the ability to like through time you'll end up with like tag partners, and you'll end up with a manager who just provides buffs from the outside, which is pretty cool.
It's got so many.
I think that's pretty much all that I forgot. There's a lot of really wacky stuff that is just kind of like, oh, that's cool, and it's like a lot of references to pop culture.
And the good thing is
wrestling,
there's like an encyclopedia in the game to help explain a lot of wrestling terms.
Yeah.
People who don't know what they're doing.
I actually forgot about that entirely. Good call on that.
Yeah, I think it's a really well-made game. The fact that they have like 100 achievements that you can unlock in the game keeps drip feeding them as you're playing, so it keeps you wanting to play. It seems like we need to have a verdict on this. So, Brock Lesnar, what are your thoughts?
Let's do this!
Okay, so I think this game is worth a purchase. Even though I had a fatal brick wall error that I can't get past, this game has a ton of content. It's very colorful. It's designed to be fun and approachable. Like Joe said, there is that encyclopedia in case any of the wrestling nonsense kind of gets to you or you don't understand it or you're like, what in the world are they talking about? The other thing I wanted to bring up that is kind of a con, but for most, I think, but actually kind of a pro for me, is the game's not hard. It's not hard at all. It's really not. Which,
and
to
the
me,
accessibility options make it even easier.
Right, but I'm saying like if you want to play it like out of the box, it's not a terribly difficult game.
No.
It's not something that you're going to beat your head against. It's a fun, goofy, old school RPG adventure that just happens to have a theming that nobody had done to this point, at least very, very, very well. I definitely think this is something that people should pick up. I would double check your controllers and cables, maybe at a friend's house who already has it first. I'm still scratching my head on this one. The last thing I'm gonna try, and I'm not gonna be able to do this for like a week or so, but I'm gonna get a new cable, USB A to USB mini for my wired controllers to see if maybe my cable is slightly damaged and this game just cares extra. But
it's very weird.
Even without having physically sat down and played the game myself, I've seen a ton of content on it. I definitely say check it out. This controller issue seems to be incredibly sporadic.
Yeah. Vince, any thoughts on your end?
This is such good shit.
Yeah, it is. Anyone else have thoughts?
Something needs to be done about this piece of shit.
Hey, I think it's a good game.
Well, I heard that Tony Khan definitely put up some money for this, so like...
Tony Khan will pay for his crimes!
Tony, did you hear that?
Fantastic!
Yeah.
Right.
How many gigs of wrestling sounds do you have?
Oh, you don't want to know the answer to that question.
Yeah.
Big meaty man slapping me.
I'm scared. Not even just that, but he has them all queued up. He knows which ones are appropriate for the occasion, and he's lining them up. Like,
Do you know why that is?
It's because we do it every fucking
I'm a nice man!
That's
my God.
Dave can't hear this, and he'd be
Smell your
like,
farts in large quantities.
I forgot about this one. This one's surprisingly good. God, this...
Bet you smell your farts in large quantities.
That's an actual line in an actual rap song. I just need
Well, if Skybound is listening to this review, I think they can at least acknowledge that they gave this review to people who actually genuinely, truly appreciate wrestling.
Yes, we
my
do.
God.
Oh yeah, no. If the dev team is listening, don't take the error as me dissing y'all. Like I'm all about this game. I am a hyper wrestling fan, as is Joe. Joe is a bigger wrestling fan than me. And that's saying something at this point.
Yeah, the devs are going to be like,
He was trying to fuck on me!
Oh, dude. No. No doubt.
Jesus Christ, these are some weird ass sound bits.
Dude, I'm telling you what, if you keep it up, they're going to take you down to...
Oh, yeah, bad city!
Oh, son of a bitch!
Does Adam have some too?
Yes.
they're all from his
69 me done!
They're all from his soundboard that I've made.
They're all from my
past
soundboard,
few months.
So he's playing them over from his side.
Fantastic!
Yeah, I am.
Great googa mugga.
Adam, I guess that's it for you. Plans?
I'm gonna go to the farmer's market!
I actually probably this weekend. That's actually kind of on the
He's
docket.
going to the farmer's market.
It is funny you play that Dalton Castle quote exactly right there. No, I was just going to say that I'm going to take the next month, maybe month and a half or so, and sit on the sidelines review-wise. So you won't hear my voice for a little bit. And that's only because I just want to get cooked in and comfy with the new job. So I'm trying to clear some other obligations that are weekly or bi-weekly or whatever the case may be off my plate. And I'm going to go get comfy and cozy with the new job so I can start earning them ducats.
Cool.
And then come back and play some games and hang out with you nerds.
Cool beans. Well, we will let you get going.
Well, if you got any tips on how to find the sweet job for the sweet ducats, let me know, because I'm in that world my damn self right now.
My friend, it took me posting frustratedly on Facebook and then a friend giving me a link for an internal reference. That's how I got into this company.
I'm not even saying it as an insult. I'm saying because I tell people this and they're like, that's bullshit. I'm like, no, I'm telling you, this day and age is all about who you know, man.
It is.
Applying blind ain't doing shit.
The last 2 positions that I have acquired have been created because of me posting something frustrated on Facebook and a friend of mine being like, hey, my company happens to be hiring for this role that you're looking for. You should apply here. And it's actually worked out like that twice in the span of 2 years.
Damn it. Give me those friends.
Boister your social network. You didn't accrue a collection of friends on a website to not use it for its intended purpose. You know people, talk to them.
Yeah, I have to give that a try. I can tell you right now, I ain't been doing shit for me. But social media
is not only a place to brag about gym results and delicious meals and video game and board game collections, but it is also a place It's also a place to ask your built network for a hand because you have created that network over time for purposes just like that. So why not take advantage of what you have created?
I think the challenge is that I generally associate the network as being people like, man, we get entertained by this guy's frustrations. Fuck. But
that's an incredibly self-deprecating way to go about it. But
oh man, I think you are.
You should see my very latest Facebook post actually on my personal wall if you would like to learn a hint more about that topic specifically. Actually, self-deprecation.
I will have to give it a look-see then because I am very interested in seeing what you wrote about that, because you're pretty much very good with words on your postings, and I enjoy reading them. So,
well, thank you. I tend to just type the way I would tell a story. Like I just type the way I talk. So I find it to be a lot more easy for me to get my thoughts out, and it tends to be a lot more readable for whatever reason. So. But in any event, off to the shadowy sidelines for me. I will have the Gatorade cooler waiting, chilled for you all when you need a break. But I'll catch y'all in a handful of weeks.
Adam's
already
thinking.
Good, sir.
I'm gonna break so many hearts.
Dude, I am. Let me tell you, I'm gonna break so many customer support hearts. It's gonna be great.
You've already broken our hearts. You've already broken our hearts.
99.
All right, y'all. Have a good one.
Catch you later, buddy.
Awesome evening, everyone. Take care.
Later, friend.
All right, moving on. Next game to talk about is ETERNIGHTS, developed and published by Studio Sai, released September 12th on PS4, PS5, and PC for $29.99. ETERNIGHTS is a dating action game where you try to make the most out of life during the apocalypse. Monday, go on a date. Tuesday, clear dungeon. Friday, freak out. The clock is ticking. Pernell, tell us about your time with ETERNIGHTS.
That's actually the blurb they gave for the game. That's pretty interesting. Freak out. Chic. So the idea behind this game is you are a individual and along with his friend Shawnee. You're both, teenagers hurting for a date, and you're filling out dating profiles, hoping to score some tail. And unsurprisingly, you actually get contacted by somebody asking to meet up for a date the very next day, of which you agree to do so. But unexpectedly to you anyway, interesting events occur, and the world goes topsy-turvy because as you're on your way to the date, giant walls start to form encasing everyone in their special areas of the city, and a number of people immediately start becoming afflicted by this weird virus, which is turning them into, I guess, like brainless, savage monster people, and they start to attack on the fly. So at this moment, and it kind of gets a little jittery at this early stage, I'll admit, as far as the narrative goes, but you and your friend run towards a nearby shelter in hopes of finding security. And without going into a bunch of rambling because there's a lot more that can go in here. I'm just going to say you have a chance encounter with a random woman who may or may not be a goddess who has tasked you with taking out her rival and acquiring a stone that this rival has stolen, which has resulted in all the weirdness that you are dealing with. Also, your arm gets chopped off and replaced with a glowing arm that can transform into a sword. But yeah, typical days of the apocalypse here.
Yeah,
but
Monday.
Yes, there's your Monday. Yeah, actually, funny enough, that does all happen in one in-game day. So yeah, that is a Monday. But when the gameplay itself unfolds, what ends up happening is you end up getting thrown into a schedule-based action RPG where you are tasked with working together with a number of friends, both old and new, to reacquire this stone and quote-unquote save the world. So I hate using the comparison, but I know that's what they were going for when they made the game, so I'm not going to just mince it. This runs on a calendarized system very similar to the Persona games, where when it's up, well, more so like 4 and 5, but what ends up happening is a series of events will occur, and then the game will give you a sort of deadline in which you have to accomplish a mission, typically involving getting to the end of a general sector to beat a boss in order to break a wall down before something bad happens. And that is when you get kind of trapped into a schedulized format. So you can do a number of things. You can either work together spend some time working together with some of the friends you make to just kind of chat with them and have a social bonding period. That's a situation where you can form bonds with them. And as you form bonds with them, you will level set bond up. And then I'll talk more about what occurs there later on. You can go on scavenger hunts with them, which is interesting. It's equivalent to like looting abandoned stores in hopes of getting necessary utensils and items such as, maxi pads and towels. So what ends up happening there is you end up going to a location that you select. I personally have been playing as to believe that you're selecting a location that's most likely to have the thing you're searching for. And then it's essentially you going around and clicking on various objects that are highlighted in hopes of one of them being the object you want before time runs out and you get kicked out because they claim monsters, are invading the space and you don't want to have to deal with that. And of course, by doing so, you'll get items and further strengthen your bond. I will talk more about what some of those items do later on. And then the last thing you can kind of do also is talk to one of your friends in particular, and he will kind of give you dating advice and help you build up some of your social stats in the game. So those are pretty much the auxiliary things you can do. But the main meat and potatoes of the game is going to the quote-unquote wall. It's usually a different area in the game, like a dungeon, that ultimately ends with you getting to like a specific area on one of the walls that are blocking you off in hopes of taking it down and progressing closer to where the stone is housed. When this happens, you are dumped in the middle of the dungeon along with you and all your friends. And your attack options or rather the things you're attacking are people that have been mutated into various grotesque creatures. I actually kind of like the enemies in this game because they have different behavioral patterns, and even though the game isn't like running on, peak, visual spectrums or anything like that, I will say that it looks good enough and it's entertaining to me. And I like seeing like a crazy lady run up to you with like a beam saber that she has for some reason, and she's just wailing at all you with it. But when these enemies come at you, you are pretty much tasked with beating them back. By default, you have a sort of light swing attack where you kind of swing your sword like a cutlass. And that'll be your main way of attacking enemies. When you hit them enough times with this attack, you will then gain access to a button triggered special attack where you can do a little bit extra damage and send them flying backwards. Eventually, you'll also gain access to the ability to trigger a sort of super move. Think of this as like a time, or rather a button-sensitive QE, context-sensitive, event where once you max out a certain meter, you can trigger this by attacking the enemy, putting in these button presses, and doing a lot more damage. Some enemies have actual shielding attached to their life bars, and when those enemies come up, you have to do these things multiple times in some cases in order to get their shield down so that you can do active damage to them. And eventually, as the game progresses, you'll gain access to enemies or battle enemies that have various elemental properties. And when that happens, you are tasked with utilizing some of the bonds you form with your friends to bolster your strength and give you elemental-based special attacks. And those are the things you'll use to take down their personal walls and also do a little bit of extra damage to them in the process once the walls are down.
Pernell, we have a question from the audience, from someone who hasn't been paying attention at all. Is the game like Persona?
Literally. So it kind of is. Like, I'm not. It's, and in fact, I'm gonna say it pretty much is like Persona, but it's a lighter version of it, right? So you get access to a schedulized situation where, like, you'll be on a train, and that is your base of operations. You get a certain number of days where you have to accomplish a particular goal for enemies, or to accomplish a goal such as, defeat the hacker or reach the energy station point, stuff like that, right? And if you don't pull that off, well, game over. I didn't figure out what happens when you don't pull off because I'm not fucking around to find out. But I would assume it's a game over if you don't make it before the timer runs out. And you have to schedule day and night cycles for your events. You can only go to the actual dungeons during the day, but you have various events that can be done during the day and or during the night. So you have to plan accordingly around that. The thing that you have to be mindful of while you're in the dungeons, as far as like the usual thing that would make you ultimately have to leave the dungeon if you can't pull it off, is the fact that there's no healing items in this game. The way you heal, or do a number of other things for that matter, is there is a sort of bond meter that powers the attacks or ability support that you get from your bonded with companions. But each time you use one of those abilities, this bar goes down. And to be quite frank, I believe there are ways to get it back. I know there's things like SP gains and stuff like that from various combos you can pull off. But generally, you might find yourself in a situation where you don't have enough to do specific abilities, most likely healing ones, and you're getting the stuffing kicked out of you, which means it's time to get out of the dungeon and go back to the home base and recuperate yourself. So that is primarily what could potentially ruin a run and make you have to, try again on another day. So not Persona 3-esque where that game had the stamina meter, but you may find yourself tasked with bouncing and getting back in later. There's also something I need to mention too, because it's very important as far as this game's combat goes. And depending on your skill level, this may be a boon or a major hindrance. So earlier I mentioned how you can, use special attacks to combo guys. You'll eventually be able to unlock new attacks, such as a greatsword that's better for like taking down like armored enemies and the like. But the main way you're going to be doing damage safely before you get to your super attacks is by utilizing perfect dodges. When enemies attack you, the game is generous, at least, by giving you a visual and audio cue that says this enemy is about to do an attack that you can dodge. When this attack is coming, you do a perfect dodge, and you get the equivalent of like Witch Time from Bayonetta, where everything slows down around you. You get to move a lot faster, and you get a couple free whops on enemies to string combos along. This is largely how you're going to be pulling off most of your damage in the game. And if you aren't able to do perfect dodges, well, I'm going to tell you, you're going to have a bad time. Because before I started getting better at doing that, enemies were just mopping the freaking floor with me. Because enemies can and will attack through your combos. And you can't combo cancel in this game, for what I could tell. So if you're in the middle of a combo string and the enemy's going to do an attack, you're going to get hit because you can't stop the rock. Can't stop the rock. So get better at doing perfect, blocks. There are things that open up in the game where I believe you can kind of. No, I'm thinking about the game I got to review next. So disregard the I think I was about to say. But you will need to get better at perfect guards. I do find this game to be fun to play. Like, I've been enjoying my time with it. The weird thing about it, I will say though, and this may also be a make it or break it for some people, is the game, the characters, and the narrative. Well, the narrative itself is fairly typical-esque, but let's be honest, this is video games we're talking about. There's not a lot of newness going on these days. As long as the entertainment is there, then that's not the problem. However, the entertainment is subjective in the form that these guys are children, and the game treats them like they're children. Their dialogue, their interactions. These are teenagers, not prepubescent, but pubescent teenagers interacting with each other. So one of my favorite narrative bits that happens very early in the game, and actually it was one of Brooke's too, I believe, is at the very beginning, near the beginning of the game, you get knocked down and you think you're dying, and your friend comes over to say, "Hey, are you okay, man?" And you kind of have a random discussion about getting him to go and destroy the porn collection you had hidden around your house. You don't want anybody to find it. And then your female companion that's hanging out with you is kind of like, "Are you freaking kidding me? This is ridiculous. This is stupid dialogue." Now, some people might hear that and go, "Oh, geez, how immature." And in some respects, I could feel that way too. But they are teenagers. They are being ridiculous in that teenager way. And my argument against that is the same one I've been spouting for years, which no one in the industry listens to me, which is that if you want more mature narratives, get older characters for your games. Stop using teenagers for all these games. But guess what? This is how teenagers act. I'm not going to knock it. I'd rather this than have a 16-year-old war veteran. So,
True.
Final Fantasy. So I'll take it. So, yeah, that always drove me freaking nuts.
You mentioned Brooke a little earlier. We should mention that Brooke also played this and was hoping to be here tonight to talk about it, but she had a vet emergency she had to attend to. She gave you notes, correct? What are her thoughts on this?
I'm running hazy on some of them because since I'm actually on the device I'd be reading them from, but I did read the notes. And I know that she did enjoy the combat. She found the combat to be pretty fun. She wasn't too big on the quote unquote, the otome elements, because that's her strong suit, because it's more suited towards the male player than the female, than the woman, the male player than the woman, the female player, because most of the people you can communicate with in this game are women, and the majority of the main bonds you're going to form are also with women. There are two guys you start to form bonds with as you progress through the game, but for the most part, you're talking to the girls. And if you're not going down that rabbit hole where you're interested in that might be an annoyance. Plus, some of the more, like I said, the semi-immature dialogue the characters have isn't all that grand for her. She did enjoy the combat, though. As she put it, she got to the point where she was fighting bosses and getting her butt handed to her on normal mode, but she wanted to keep trying, and she stuck it out for a while till she beat bosses, and she honestly had no idea why that happened. And my response to her was, it's because you were having fun. But the other part of it is also, I believe the game is good about giving you retries. So when you die in a combat situation, there's not a long loading sequence, and the game kind of throws you back fairly close to that battle, if not right at the battle for some of them. So you don't have to worry about game over, go back to loading screen, select file, let game load, and then go back to whatever save point you were at. No, it dumps you right there. Save points are primarily for when you actually want to stop playing for the day, not to retry after dying. And I'm okay with that because I feel like we're kind of past the era where, there are games for that, mainly like games like, like those freaking, what's the word I'm looking for, like Sheer and the Wander type roguelike games and the like. But for stuff like this, I think we're past the era where you have to be concerned about, oh man, I haven't saved in hours. I just lost all this progress. Screw it. Just let me start up. Now, if you turn the game off with a style, say that's your own ass. You deserve it. So, whatever. I wanted to mention one more thing, because this is the thing I was going to mention before the question came through, right? So, when you have these conversations with the other characters and you start to form bonds with them, or you go on raids with them, the items that you acquire, aside from just strengthening your bonds with them, you also can acquire what's called white essence. You can find black essence in dungeons and by beating certain bosses, and that can be used to upgrade certain abilities. But the white essence, which is used to upgrade, I believe, most of the abilities in the game, is only acquired by these bonding events. So you will need to be very specific about how you spend it, because you might find yourself being like, man, I like this ability, but I'm kind of low on, essence for this stuff, so I'm sad about that. So no, everything you upgrade through your bonds is through white essence, and everything is upgraded directly from yourself is through black essence. So you'll use black essence to upgrade your special attacks that you can acquire from enemies. You'll use black essence to upgrade or unlock your base of moves that only the main character gets, but you use white essence to get all the special abilities that they can support you with on the field. So spend in, buyer beware. But all in all, I do feel as though, this game isn't, rewriting the book on JRPGs or action RPGs. That's the only thing. This is a JRPG. This is a Western RPG, I believe. But it's not rewriting the book on any of these things, but it is fun. It's actually more fun than I was expecting it to be. Like, I expected it to be okay, but I was engaged. I was actually enjoying it, and I liked like, I enjoyed the immature character interactions that they were having with each other, because my old ass was kind of just enjoying the fact that these guys were living the life that I miss when I was a child. I miss being a teenager sometimes, not for the school or the actual bullies and shitty people, but the fun parts of it. So I enjoyed all those things. I like the character upgrade system. I enjoy breaking enemy barriers and just mopping the floor with them once their shields are down. The music is good. Honestly, I just feel like the game does its job, and it does its job well. And I feel as though, as long as you're okay with the maturity elements I mentioned before, I think you'll have a good time with this. And there is a difficulty setting option, so I believe there is an easy mode here if you're like struggling on normal or whatnot. And actually, I just checked while I had the game open to confirm you can switch to easy mode during the game if you need to just ramp it down while you're playing it. So you're not locked into it.
Well, the game clocks in at $30. What are your thoughts on it?
I believe this to be a surprising buy. And I say surprising because I was preparing to be like, it's a try, because you never know. But no, I think they did a good job with this game, and I feel like it deserves a solid buy it play. There are good characters. Also, Sai is the best character in the game. But yeah, I think they did a good job with this, and it deserves more people's attention.
Cool. And Timber in chat was saying that apparently the devs made a comment to someone a while back that they are planning, or at least hoping, to get the game on Switch and Xbox in the future. So let's cross our fingers and hope the game does well enough to jump over to other platforms.
Here's the hoping, because I think you'll all enjoy it if it gets to them.
Cool. All right, next up is Catlord, developed by Mr. McCiastku. Published by No Gravity Games. It released August 31st on Switch for $14.99. Step into the paws of the legendary Catlord. Survive in a shrinking area, fight off hordes of enemies, grow more powerful with each run to claim victory. Take control of a brave cat with extraordinary abilities in this pixel adventure, facing off your animal adversaries, from pesky chickens to cunning foxes and more. Are you ready to unleash your inner Catlord? Chris, are you the lord of all cats?
Yes, I am. Well, except around this house. Okay, so what? It's funny too, because ever since becoming a cat dad, like, I instinctively meow back at anything I hear that meows. I'm sure you relate.
Yes. Cats meow me. I'm just like, what?
Yeah, exactly. What is it?
What?
Yeah.
What, baby?
Yeah.
Really? Real? Are you serious?
Exactly. That's how it goes.
Those are actual conversations in my household on a daily basis, by the way.
Same exact. Okay, so Catlord. Yes, this is a game with a big old elephant in the room. That's to say, it's about cats, but it's really about elephants. So I don't know what we call this genre. I was trying to think of a name for it, and I was like, passive horde shooter. I think that's a good one. It's to where you basically, you pick your cat, you start with one, and you go into a stage, and there your cat will passively throw white balls around. They just kind of shoot out, and they'll aim for enemies that close in on the cat. The enemies will increase in number until you can't actually control like what your cat's really doing except to move it around.
Yeah.
Appropriate given that it's a cat. Can't tell it what to do. But like it passively shoots until, and the enemies will pop, and then you gain levels. You don't gain levels, you gain money. Money and refills on your HP, which we'll talk about. MP, which we'll talk about MP in a second. And then you die, and then you start it again, or you purchase some upgrades with the money you got, and that effectively levels up your cat, and then you start again and try to survive a little longer. Survive, you say? Oh, that sounds a little bit familiar. Yes, it's Vampire Survivors, but it's a cat game. Having said, it's got some differences.
Vampire.
Yeah. I was going to say Catpire Survivors, but yeah, Vampire Survivors is even better. So yeah, this is definitely an imitation of Vampire Survivors. I don't mind saying, because it imitates it on a lot of levels. That supplants the imitation Castlevania characters with just cats. So yeah, the loop of the game is basically go in, die, and then purchase upgrades and respawn. In purchasing these upgrades, you basically also get a couple of supplementary moves that you can use. Now, these you can actually toggle on and off during the gameplay, which Vampire Survivors doesn't have anything that you can toggle on off. You just load up your character with passives, choose from power-ups that you grab along the way as to what you can do. In Catlord, you have 3 things that you can do, and that's it for the whole game. One is the white balls. Again, those are those come standard with the cat. Then with the R trigger button, you can throw a few more balls. These ones are red and they pass through enemies a little bit better. So it's a slightly stronger thing, but it's basically for, if a mid boss comes up, which they do periodically, in a fixed way, exactly like the other game. For dealing with them, doing more damage, getting the thing away from you while you move away. And then there's a shield move with the left trigger, which basically reduces your damage while damaging the enemies that are within the circle of the shield. It's a circle around your cat. If you have played Vampire Survivors, this is the garlic. Basically, your 2 special moves is the magic wand and the garlic. So basically, that's pretty much all you do. Like, once you get enough points in a certain level, it unlocks the next level, and then it unlocks the next level, and then that's it. There's 3 levels in the game. And the amount of mid bosses, which again they kind of run on a timer, although there is not a timer in the actual level, which we'll get to. But there kind of is, but it's not like a clock that's counting down. But yeah, mid bosses will appear periodically, and they're stronger. Sometimes they can shoot bullets at you. And there's 4 of them in the first stage, 3 of them in the second stage, 2 of them in the last stage. And yeah, like I said, they're just a bit stronger enemies. Once you've upgraded enough, you can probably take them. Once you've upgraded all the way, you can definitely take them. And the other thing that happens, instead of giving you a clock that counts down, you can actually technically play this game infinitely. What happens is that a timer runs down that will move the red border. These aren't infinite levels that just scroll infinitely like the other game. These actually have borders, and the borders will close in until it's roughly the size of your screen, and you can't even move around really, except within basically the screen that you're looking at. And once that happens, nothing. It just keeps going. You just move around in this little square until you die. So with a fully powered Catlord, I 100%ed this game, by the way. So with a fully powered Catlord, I was able to just stand in one place in level 1 and just walk away from the switch. I just turned on my shield. Enemies would drop enough magic to keep my shield going infinitely, and of course it would get drawn to my cat. And I just went and grabbed a drink and stuff and came back, and I eventually just turned off the shield so I could die and move on.
Wow.
Almost maxed out the score. I thought about doing it, but then I was like, what's that going to do? It was like 800,000 points or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's no variety between the stages. They are different settings. A grassy field, which is the way the other game starts, a graveyard, and then kind of a temple. But there's no level-based hazards apart from some solid objects. There's no there's really it's hard to understate how much there is in this game. Then like I said, once you've upgraded your cat or whatever, you can also spend your money to unlock other cats. Now these other cats are 5 different colors of the same exact cat. They have no special powers, no abilities, like a real cat. They're just
fair.
Different colors of the same animal. Yeah, that is fair. The gray cat is the most expensive. The orange Wilfred is the cheapest one besides the one you start with. So that to me is by the way, a Wilfred is an orange cat. And that's because that's the name of my orange cat. Yeah, that's the cheapest one, and it should be. There's no black cat option either. I'm very sad about that. Anyways, so yeah, it's basically, like I said, they took a very good idea, by the way, in Vampire Survivors, and just kind of tweaked it a little bit to be about cats. But the problem is when you're trying to imitate something, and you really, you kind of have a task ahead of you. You're basically selling to people who have played the game or are interested in the game, and you're saying, play my game instead, or along with it. But the problem is, if that other game is like super good and cheaper, then you kind of have a big old hill to climb to make your game stand out. I thought Catlord very much was fun. It definitely it grabbed that addiction center of my brain and held on to it for the one day it took me to 100% the content. And then I loaded up Vampire Survivors and started playing it, and I think I've put about 40 hours into Vampire Hunters over the course of 5 days. I'm playing Vampire Survivors during this review. But anyways, yeah, so Catlord is a fun game, but mostly what it accomplished for me was just showing me how amazing of a product Vampire Survivors actually is by itself. Holy shit, this thing's like a 600-hour game, and it's $5. What the hell?
Yeah, which leads us to the, I think, big issue with Catlord is that it clocks in at $15.
Yeah, it's 3 times the price of Vampire Survivors. Now, it's on sale for almost for like the next week and a bit for $3.
Yes.
So I have a feeling this is one of those games that's going to say it's $15, but every 2 weeks is going to be like $1.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on that, and don't sue me, developers or publishers. I'm just venturing a guess here that because this game was $3 when I reviewed it, and at $3. Oh, or do you need to ask me the question?
No, yeah. What's your verdict at $15 and at $3? Was your verdict?
Okay, at $15, I laugh. I say no. There's not enough content in this to justify 3 times the asking price of Vampire Survivors. Now, Vampire Survivors is an anomaly. It's a simple game that knocked it so far out of the park that I don't think there's going to be a Vampire Survivors imitator that's going to ever get close to it. And there are attempts out there. This is, we were talking about this earlier. There's been some attempts to replicate the success of Vampire Survivors, and I don't blame a small dev for wanting to get into that formula. But the problem is you have to understand, you can hit the addiction center of somebody's brain enough to maybe get yourself a sale or something like that. But if if you really are trying to make a great game, you gotta focus on the content and really show the love for what you're trying to do. So I can't honestly say at $15 that Catlord is displaying enough love for what they're doing to warrant that. Now at $3, a slightly cheaper cat-based version of Vampire Survivors that will give you about a day and a half, 2 days of content. That's perfect for people who want to get into Vampire Survivors, but maybe are too intimidated by how insane it gets. It gets absolutely insane. I don't know if we'll talk Vampire Survivors later, but let's just say I actually beat death in that game.
Yeah, I've been able to take out death as well. I made it to, is it 33 minutes is where it officially ends on you?
Yeah, that's where they will actually cinematically end your progress. But then they give you hey, you made it this far.
Yeah.
Which is really, really cool. But yeah, at slightly cheaper than Vampire Survivors, I would give this a try it. I would say that its best audience are people who haven't played Vampire Survivors yet, but like the idea and prefer cats to Castlevania. Castlevania? And here's the thing, though. Vampire Survivors also has cats in it.
Yay!
They're a weapon, and it's awesome. Anyways, Catlord at $3 is a try it / buy it, depending on how you feel about Vampire Survivors, which is, again, the game that this is trying to be. There's no mistaking it. At $15, do not approach. Just wait for a sale. It's going to come.
Cool. All right, next up, Touhou New World, developed by Ankake Spa, published by XSEED Games, released September 12th on PS4 and PS5 for $24.99. Delve back into the world of Touhou in this bullet hell action RPG adventure. The boundary between Gensokyo and the outside world has been breached, and it falls to Reimu Hakurai, oh my lord, these names, and Marisa Kirasame to discover why, level up skills, forge new equipment, and explore Gensokyo to uncover the truth. Pernell, what's going on in Touhou New World?
Bullet hell was going on. So
finally.
this game, why about time?
They've been doing everything else with the series except bullet hells lately, it seems.
I will say, at least in the cases, as a bit of a slight spoiler, bullet hell is fairly reserved for like the boss battles. There's bullets in the normal skirmishes, but the boss battles are where you have to get bullet patterns. But still cool, though I will admit it's probably not as bullet hellish as you would expect, because they still got to keep it somewhere neutered for people who aren't good at bullet hell games. They're trying to expand that audience, buddy. And I can respect that, though. I'm assuming maybe there's like some kind of super difficult bosses later where it's like, nah. But in the concept of this game, or scope of this game, you are in a situation where the main characters that you just heard chosen mentioned by name, Reimu, and the other one who I didn't pick, they end up in an early skirmish with an unexpected adversary in Gensokyo. And during said skirmish, something occurs in an event that kicks that person, the character I picked, at least Reimu, I don't know what happened with the other person, kicks you back out of Gensokyo into the human world. And you kind of go on like a quick skirmish stage there before meeting up with a human, and through a series of events, you both end up in Gensokyo. And you're trying to resolve the mystery of how to get this person back home, what caused the incident that got you kicked out of Gensokyo initially in the first place, and also what happened to your magical powers, which have been reduced since being kicked to the human world. I get it. It's our oxygen. It's our air. It's very tainted here. But when you actually play the game proper, this is a top-down action RPG that has some light bullet hell properties associated with it. By default, you have a basic attack, and then you can equip a multiple of other attacks, 3 basic attacks and 1 bomb attack. And all these attacks have a cooldown. There's no MP meter, so to speak. It's just use the attack, it cools down, and then you can use it again. And you'll be using these to take on a variety of stages that are accessed by way of a world map. And when you find that stage, it's usually associated with a specific mission or goal. So when you go onto the level, you have to, proceed to accomplish the goal. It might be, generally involves beating a boss, but sometimes there's like scavenger hunts involved or what have you, or you have to like locate various objects, i.e. a scavenger hunt, before you can trigger the end of the level. Enemies aren't really tailored to the level, which is kind of sad in that sense, where enemies just show up. I'm assuming they program enemies to be in different levels, but you're not going to think, oh, I'm in this key, which means I'm going to see rock monsters here. No, you can see rock monsters wherever they decide to put them. You'll see fairies wherever they decide to put them. I feel like the only real, it's very rare you'll come across an enemy that feels like it's specific to a stage. But these enemies are all over the place, and they're dropping missiles or bullets at you, and they all have levels associated with them, like actual experience point levels. And this is deemed to let you know where they fall as far as like skill level goes. Like, do you need to level up a little bit more before going on, or if you choose this level to go there, just know that these enemies are going to be a little more powerful than you. But as you defeat enemies using your special abilities, you'll gain experience points for yourself, but you'll also gain experience points for the skills that you are using, and they can level up and get more powerful as you use them. At the end of a level, you will fight a general boss. The boss has a decent health bar, and this is where the bullet hell aspect of the game comes into play, because the enemies will go bonkers on bullets here and require you to get good to dodge them or die. Fortunately, though, this game doesn't really rely on pickups for hit points like a lot of games like this would do, or items for that matter. Instead, you have a persistent, like healing item or healing gauge, where once it's full, you can use it to trigger instant heal for a certain amount of hit points. And you can upgrade this as the game progresses to be able to do it more times, or have stockpile more of them, so you're not just kind of waiting for the one to recharge. But if you end up blowing through those, you do need to wait for them to recharge before you can heal again. And depending on how crazy the boss is getting with their bullets, you might kind of come to regret using them so fast in the Sea of Panic. So I will say I did, even though the narrative is kind of ho-hum, I found myself enjoying this game to an extent. But there is one really annoying issue with this game. It is a major one. And that is the fact that loot in this game is extremely boring. Like, I don't know who had the idea to make you find like the same 5 different items of a class throughout a long stretch of the game. Hell, early on, you find the same 2 weapons early on in the game. The oak staff and the steel rod. I'm sorry, not even the steel rod. It's the oak staff and the evergreen rod. And it takes a long time before you can find new weapons. And these weapons, they come in like a rare and like a super rare form. But the way the stats are allocated to these things, it doesn't even really matter. You can't tell what's what. Like, you'll have 10 oak purifying rods of various qualities, but you don't know which one is truly better than the other. You have to check each individual one because they all have different stats and then decide what you want to use. It makes loot very boring in this game. You don't really care. Like, I mean, personally, I find myself barely caring about weapons that I found in the game until you get to the point where you can start upgrading them at the store. Even going to the store to buy stuff, it's like, well, you want to buy another oak purifying rod? Now I have 20. I don't need to buy another one. Or the freaking armor, which is normal clothes. You find lots of normal clothes. Same problem, though. It's serviceable, obviously, because it's literally just the barest aspect of what equipment is. Each of these items has a variation of stat buffs. Choose the one you want to wear. But it's not very exciting when you just keep seeing normal. Oh, wow, courtesy attire. Oh, the courtesy attire is not as good as the normal clothes you're wearing. Well, back to normal. God damn, it drove me crazy. Skills, the problem with the skills, they're not bad, but the variety in which you get of them is very weak for a way too long of a period of time. Like the first level or so, you end up with like 6 or 7 different skills. But then you go hours without getting a new skill. So in my case, I built a loadout and just didn't bother changing it because the power level for these were what I wanted. I had a decent balance between range and and local damage. Or rather range and close damage. So I didn't really see the point in changing anything up. I had a very basic loadout that never had to be updated. So if anything, this did a good job of showing me why things like variety and attacks and skills and equipment matters in video games. Because otherwise it gets blank. You don't get to experiment. You don't get to find the joy in getting new stuff.
Here.
The game itself does work, though. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's a bad game or that it's not worth a play if you're interested in Touhou. Because, like I said, I have enjoyed playing it when I just get to the nitty-gritty, though the majority of the fun comes from the bosses themselves, because that's when the actual Touhou feel actually kicks in when the bullet sprays start kicking off. And also, the music in this game is pretty freaking good, but I think that's pretty, part and parcel for Touhou games. They usually have pretty great OSTs. This one's no different. So I want to say that if you are lacking in this genre of game and you're not beholden to wanting specifically Touhou antics, you can wait on this. There's better in this genre that are probably cheaper too right now that you can get on PS5, which is what I played it on, but also on what other systems it comes on if it's on other systems. However, if you are seasoned in the genre, or you just happen to like Touhou, and Touhou might be the thing that makes you want to give this concept of gameplay a shot. In that case, then I would say give it a shot. Let Touhou bring you into the fold, but just know there is better eating at the table if you just look at the plate over there and see what you're missing out on. So that's my gimmick, but then here comes the thingy.
Yeah, well, we need an official verdict at $24.99. What do you say?
I will give this a try in the sense that it is a functional game that has fun aspects to it. It is lacking in variety, though. And I do feel as though this is a game you come to after you've kind of exhausted others of the genre, unless you're a Touhou head, in which case, sit on down and have fun.
All right, one final game to talk about tonight is Retro Mystery Club Volume 1, the Ise-Shima case, developed by Happymeal and Undercoders, published by Shinyuden, released August 24th on Steam for $9.99. The classic-style mystery adventure game inspired by the Famicom Detective Club series will take you on a suspenseful journey through the beautiful landscapes of Ise-Shima. Chris, tell us about your time with the Retro Mystery Club Volume 1.
Okay, well, this is one of those things where, sometimes when I review multiple games in a podcast, they end up having this, link. And, indeed, this is a game that is a imitation of a earlier game that was very popular. However, this is a little bit different, in that sense. So, yeah, this is a, what one might call, it's an adventure game, but it's neither a point and click, nor is it like a visual novel. It's not a parser-based thing. It is basically a tribute, if you would, to the Portopia serial murder case, which is a Famicom game that came out all the way back in the early 80s. It was originally a computer game, where you had to type in what to do, tell your character what to do, and they'd flash scenery by you and characters and stuff. But in converting it to the Famicom, the creator Yuji Horii and what's the other guy's name? Catacombs? No, what's his name? I don't know. Where's my notes? Basically, the Yuji Horii, created that game and would later go on with Chunsoft to create Dragon Quest, which is a seminal Japanese RPG that and the interesting thing about transferring the Portopia serial murder case to Famicom is that they had to trade out the parser system because you couldn't type on the Famicom. Well, not without doing the bulky pointing a D-pad at letters. They couldn't do that. So what he did is he took the system that he had actually developed for one of the sequel games that were also on computer, and where you could select what to do in a menu rather than type it out. Now, combining these two things, a computer adventure game and a menu system like that, was nigh unheard of, and it was the first time it had happened on a console. So, in a sense, the Portopia serial murder case is what invented the menu-based system that we would later see in JRPGs, so Dragon Quest, Final Fantasy, the like. So Portopia serial murder case never came out over here in the US except as a fan translation unofficially. But it is so huge in what it did for gaming. And in fact, the same team would go on later to create one of the very first visual novels because the developer whose name I have forgotten after Dragon Quest V came out, which they had worked on, she expressed a desire to get a video game story without having to actually play the game, and then they worked on doing that, and then that's what became the first visual novel in 1992, which was called Otogarisu. Anyways, so that's a little bit of the history of the Portopia serial murder case. This is important because this game is, like I said, basically not note for note, but it's very, very close. You basically start off, you're a police detective. You have the rookie who basically kind of serves as your narrator. His name is Ken, and I'm actually going to I'm going to hand this over to Brooke's notes, which she sent to me to describe Ken, because I think it's pretty great. So we'll talk about Ken, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the mechanics. So Brooke describes Ken as the resident silly Billy, yet also straight man. She says, "I love Ken. At first I hated him, but he won me over. Ken's like our little sidekick. He's also basically our manager. He's the voice in our head that says, hey, don't do that thing, when we click the wrong control or choose an option that doesn't make sense for the situation. Which is going to happen a lot in this game, because a lot of the time you only have a few options to choose from, and you're going to choose every option from time to time, trying to figure out what you can even do next." Ken exists for a lot of reasons in this game, but I think that one of the best reasons he exists is to not only tell us what we can and can't do by yelling at us, but also by teaching us not to listen to him because nothing matters. Ken is great, but he is also worthless. I find myself to initially constantly worry about pissing him off or insulting him, but pretty quickly that goes away when we have to just make peace with this guy yelling at us a lot. Scene 1, I notice I can ask him his alibi for the night of his murder that he just woke me up to investigate right now. Well, I have like 5 options at this point, so I do it even though he's obviously also a cop. He gets pissed, I would ask. Understandable. I make a mental note. I need to trust Ken more. He's my buddy. So, that's Ken. He is basically your eyes and ears in the game. Because you are you. You never see your character. You don't have a name. Things like that. So, and again, that perfectly emulates Portopia Serial Murder Case, but the character's name in that game is Yuso. Yasu. Sorry, got his name wrong. I'm bad with names. Can you tell? Basically. Yeah, it's going scene by scene and scrolling through all of the options that you can possibly pick, which are options like investigate, ask, show, so you can like show your police badge, you can show some evidence. You can even access your cell phone, which is a new addition, of course, to this game. You can, tell the computer that you want to check Google Maps or look up something on the internet, which, by the way, Ken will yell at you and tell you not to do that because you need to investigate this not by looking up things on the internet, which is personally offensive as a person who reviews video games. And I'll have more to read about that in a second. But yeah, it's going from scene to scene, and you basically are kind of locked into where you are until you can figure out the thing that kind of moves the story along. And it never is random, but sometimes it is like a little hidden. Like, you're probably going to frustrate yourself within the first 20 minutes of this game trying to figure out where to put a locker key in the many scenes with lockers in them that you can go to. But in that sense, the frustration that you feel in trying to solve this minor puzzle is written into the story, and it's responded to. So, like, this game is very well written in that way, and that's how it's meant to be. We got a taste of this on the NES back in the day through Princess Tomato and the Salad Kingdom, which is kind of a parody version of Portopia Serial Murder Case. So, and I have beaten that game, so that's kind of cool too. So let's see. We're gonna go to Brooke now for a little bit of the like the first case. So we're inspecting a dead body, and we find a coupon for a restaurant. He's like, "Oh, cool. I'll look that up on my smartphone for us, no problem. I got that, don't worry about it." He literally says this. So I chose not to click the button that says something like look up in smartphone because Ken said he was doing it. I did everything else I could do though, and then I finally clicked that button. Ken, dude, you didn't do it. You just said you were going to do it. Buddy, lives have been lost here. This is important. We need to communicate better. So then Ken is like, you know what? We could take a picture of the dead guy with our phone in case we need a picture later. So I'm like, no, I got this, and I take a picture. I'm looking at the picture, and Ken is like, wow, don't I take amazing pictures, detective? That looks great. And I'm like, literally, WTF is happening. So now we're like, okay, Ken isn't going to do shit with his phone, whether or not he takes credit for it in the end. So I got to be using the cell phone all the damn time and just constantly exhausting all my options. Well, let's use the internet search feature then and look up the place we found the coupon for. We do this, but nothing happens, except Ken says, I don't think it's good to rely on online searches, detective. Cases are solved by searching the streets, not the internet. By the way, Ken's face is on almost every screen we play on the entire game, just overreacting to stuff. It's awesome. So, that's,
Oh, Ken.
Yeah, exactly. You do learn to love Ken. And, by the way, his stand-in for Princess Tomato in the Salad Kingdom is Percy, the persimmon, who, frequently drops your stuff, but that's like the game's way of clearing your inventory that you won't need for the next chapter. But it really makes you hate him. He's like, whoops, boss, I'm sorry, I dropped all our stuff. Well, live and learn. So yeah, it's a great tribute in that way. And yeah, like I said, I think I got a little further than Brooke just based on her notes. I was able to solve the locker mystery and move on to actually meeting other characters. You actually get to meet like a pretty diverse cast of characters. All of which have different stories, motivations, and if they're a young woman, then Ken's gonna have a crush on them for sure. He even has like a little anime face for it.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's our Ken. That's our Kenny boy.
It seems like it's an enjoyable tribute to the Famicom Detective Club series. The game clocks in at $10. What do you think of it?
Okay, so Brooke and I divided a little bit over it, but I will say that we have since talked after she sent her notes, and I told her all this about the Portopia serial murder case, and she was way more impressed about that. But so I'm going to give my thing, and I'm going to read off her note for it. But just understand that she didn't know about the Portopia serial murder case, or even that this is entirely based on an older game. So I'm going to say, as a fan of Dragon Quest is like my favorite series, and Yuji Horii is like a god to me. So I will say, absolutely, this is a loving tribute that definitely hits all the right notes. It's the closest thing we have to having the original game in any official capacity, because, like I said, it's a very close tribute. It looks great. It sounds great. I'm actually a big fan. I say it's worth it. And in fact, it's on my buying list. It's coming out in 2 days on the Switch, and I will be purchasing it.
Nice.
So buy it for me. I will read Brooke's note. I do think this game is worth the full $10 despite assets, because I think it has some great surprises in store for the nostalgic player, and those surprises are hidden in small places all over the game, but also later games, some big surprises that will make you glad you picked it up. Just check out some screenshots and know what you're buying. So yeah, I think she gives it a buy it too.
Cool. Works for me.
And me.
All right. Well, I guess we are
Hooray.
Finished with this episode. Made it through this one. Thanks to the two of you for being here. Thanks to Brooke for sending in her notes. Hopefully Brisket's doing okay.
Brooke for not...
And then
I was going to say...
Go ahead.
Brisky baby.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I apologize to Brooke for not reading the notes verbatim. I needed to... I'm just like, okay, wait, they're on the same device I'm talking from. This isn't good. But I feel like I conveyed the majority of the points she had with the game in mind there.
By the way, the Portopia serial murder case is the first in a trilogy of games on the computer. Not all of them made it to Famicom, only the first two. The third one stayed on computers and was apparently more like naughty, kind of an after dark, 8-bit after dark kind of a situation going there. So I was like, wow, that's kind of wild. That's just something I uncovered while researching the original game.
All right. Well, again, we are finished. That is it for this one. Big thanks to Adam for coming on, doing his thing. Music, I don't know what I'm going to play. I'm just going to play a song. I was looking for something with the word cat in it, but like all I'm finding is like Cataclysm and Catacombs. So, I don't know. I'll find something.
Catacombs seems about right.
Anyway, anyone have any final words to end the show?
Nah, I'm I take my ass to sleep. I'm Yoni McGoney.
Yoni McGoney.
Truly gives me the collywobbles.
That's right.
Collywobbles.
I was on that collywobbles kick.